Okay, so we need to always figure out whether we're going to use sine law or cosine law. Those are the two laws that you learn to solve any triangle, right? Okay, so this is just a quick little summary. Okay, so if you are given two sides and an angle opposite to one of the sides, that means you are trying to solve for an angle, right? We cannot solve for an unknown side length if we don't have any of the angles. And we would use sine law. Remember this? Okay? If you have a complete ratio, we would have this and that side opposite. Sorry, we were trying to find this angle, and we would have that opposite side length. You are given this angle also. That's what it should have said, sorry. So you're given this complete ratio, and then we could solve for what? What would we be solving for here first? If you have this complete ratio and you have this side length, what are you solving for? Which angle? The top up here or the lower bottom left? This one, right? Because sine law makes a ratio. You're setting up a proportion. What's sine law? Okay, so if you have you have an angle and you have a side length, and then you have a side length, you can figure out the missing angle, right? Remember this? Okay, if you're given two angles and a side, so in this case you're given this angle and this side length, what would we be using? So for this one, you could find this angle, right? And then you have a complete ratio set up there. You have sine A over side length A. And then you could use this angle, B, and you could find that side, or you could use C and find C. But you have to find this first. How would you find angle A first? Yep. Right, add up the two angles and then take that away from 180 because the interior angles in a triangle add up to 180. Remember this now? So we would use sine law, and you would be finding a side length. Okay, what about, sorry, this is the same thing. You're given this angle and this side length, so you have a complete ratio set up. So you have the angle and the side length, and then you would be given this angle. Then you would, if you have this angle, which side length would you find? Left or right? If you have this angle, this side length you would have to find, right? Okay, next one. If you have two sides and an angle in between, remember this? You would use cosine. That one's pretty straightforward. If you have two sides and an angle in between, it's always cosine. And you would have to find the side length first, and then you can find all the other missing parts. You can if you use cosine law first, then you can use sine law after, right?
Yeah.
To figure out the rest of it. If you are given only three sides, you always use cosine law. If you're not given any angles, it's always cosine law. And you would find an angle. Then you could use sine law to find this angle, right? And then you could use the interior angles theory to find the third angle.